All right, guys, we are recording. This is our Zoom session here for 4A and 4B. This is Kevin Hoover, Jamal Boone, and Whitney Sluter. And we are peer reviewing as we speak. Anybody want to go first tonight? Oh, I can go first.
I don't mind going. Yeah.
I can go first, Jamal.
That's fine.
I peer reviewed you. I was going to ask you some questions. I actually sent your peer review back to you.
I saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
I can email it if you need me to. I was going to ask you some questions about your school. I thought your artifacts were great. I thought you did a great job in detail, explaining stuff. I thought you really did a good job with your graphs, your charts, your budget, everything. I thought you did a fantastic job with those. I was going to ask you, what kind of discipline issues do you have at your school?
I can't necessarily say it's any different from any other schools, but I guess most of the largest or major issues come down mostly to this, I guess, disrespect.
Okay. And I think that's typical middle school.
They have, some fights here and there, but it's mostly disrespectful language or just responses and attitudes. And we try, I'm one of those ones who try to tolerate, a little bit more than the other teachers. Right. I'm trying to keep you in school. Right. And that's just the reputation or the relationship I've built, but it's not the same for everyone.
Right. I understand that.
And some people, from what I've seen, now I'm trying to understand the role of a dean of students, because it seems as if our dean of students is more so of he's looking for things to say, I got you. I caught you on camera for this, and it depends on the person or the student, rather. Depends on the consequences you get. So if you are, let's say, if you thrown something across the room and you're one of those AB honor roll students, you may necessarily not get any days in ISS or any time at home.
Do you guys have cameras in your classroom?
Now, they can turn them on through the smart board, really? But they have to actually come to the classroom and turn it on, which I hate.
Do you guys have a full-time SRO at your school
Yes.
resource officer?
Yes.
How many do y'all have?
One.
Yeah.
And he's, if they're in the problem, we call the office, depending on the severity of it. If we can't contain or control it, we go those extra miles, take those extra steps. But he's pretty much on it. He is.
So I was reading through your stuff, and I know last time we talked about your assistant principal just taking another job as a testing coordinator.
Well, she was the testing coordinator first.
Right. And
she took up the assistant principal role.
How many assistant principals do y'all have?
One.
Yeah. How many, and I was going to ask you too, as I was reading through your stuff, it was just interesting. You guys have a dress code. I saw like some of the stuff. How does that go over with the kids in the school? How long has that been going on?
For a few years now. Before I actually started working at the school, it was implemented. Now it's similar to Whitney School, whereas there's a dress code in place, but it's not necessarily enforced. And again, it depends on the student. If you're one of those students who causes problems, or you're on that hit list, if you must, then you receive those consequences. But the dress code in itself is supposed to be khaki pants, black pants, or brown, I guess, different color khaki, I guess, if you want to. And the shirts are supposed to be white, blue, or gold with black or brown shoes.
And what if
think about it, middle school student, you're not necessarily going to wear too many brown shoes.
Yeah. How does the discipline work? Like if a kid doesn't wear that, is it like? I mean,
this school year has been different from the last two. This is my third year at the school. This year, and I think speaking with the principal at school, there was some conversation he had with the superintendent earlier this school year, whereas we were collecting the students who were out of dress code. We were having them call home, having the parents either to bring them a change of clothes or to pick them up. And in one instance, the superintendent actually called the principal back and asked him why did he send the child home, and he told her because of dress code.
Sure.
And she said, call the parent and tell the parent to bring the child back to school, just as long as they're in school. So after that, he hasn't really focused on dress code since then.
How does your community? I mean, is it okay in your community? I mean, is that like something that they talk about or ever changing?
It's
like at one time we talked about going to a dress code. We had so many oppositions to it. It was like it wasn't a battle to fight.
And if I'm hearing it correctly, because we just got like a new school board and a new superintendent, so there are people who are talking about trying to get rid of dress code. Because again, like you saw, we have a school within a school. So there's the elementary school that's also in the middle school, all in one building. However, the elementary school, they observe their dress code. But like a regular parent would, if you're coming to the school and you're seeing other students out of dress code, you're going to question whether we have a dress code and why is it being enforced.
That was my next question: is how does your feeder school and your high school, do they have dress codes too?
The high schools are pretty much the same as we are, but the elementary schools, I guess, is more strictly enforced. But
yeah, how do y'all? Do they dress out for PE? Are they still required to have clothes for PE, or they can participate in those clothes?
They can participate in these clothes. Now, I don't know what may have happened, because I know when I was in school, we had to dress out for PE, and it was a grade.
See, I'm a PE teacher, so we actually we give them. I'm lenient with them as far as like they're a middle school kid's going to forget his shorts.
Right.
Just are, but as long as it's not habitual and they do it all the time.
But we have so many students who, especially with PE being concerned, who may have those notes that's coming in from the doctors or the parents with so many restrictions. Right. It's almost like you're just sitting in PE class just for 45 minutes doing nothing because you can't run, you can't lift anything, you can't move too fast, supposedly.
Now, do you guys have athletic teams at your school?
Yes.
All of them? Or, I mean, with 300 and something kids, do y'all?
We have basketball, football, tennis, track, volleyball, softball. I think that's about it. Yeah.
How does, do you guys have, and this might be a question for Whitney and Vernon too, but what do you guys do about electronic devices? What do y'all do about social media? I mean, I know it's a problem.
Electronic devices.
I know it's like, we now encourage kids to bring electronic devices to our school. I spend a lot of time looking for iPhones, iPads, things that are stolen. I was, Jamal, you can answer that, or y'all can they use them? I know I'm in middle school now. I love my high school kids. They had them, and that's the way I kept in touch with my basketball players. It was easy, group messages, things like that. But do your school want you to help out, or?
And I'm sure someone else may answer this as well. Now, in our policy, it states, for them not to necessarily use the electronic devices in school. Now, we know they have them. If they don't have anything else, they're going to have an electronic device.
Exactly.
But I know for my grade, because I'm a grade level chairperson, and I think for 6th grade, we operate a little differently than 8th grade do. 8th grade, we can see them going up and down the hallways with their cell phones. Yeah. You talk to some students, they're in the classroom on cell, and it's not for instructional purposes. Now, it would be a difference if it was for instructional purposes. I've used them once, I think, with Kahoot for instructional purposes. But my thing is, outside of the disrespectful behavior that may exist, other problems, other major concerns we have surround electronic devices. Right. Someone's, sending messages saying they're going to fight someone in school, or they're going to do this, they're going to do that. So we it's really discouraged, but we know they have them.
Right. I think too, for us, I mean, that's one of the things I put on at the beginning of the year when we were Zooming about laws. I think we were putting it on there, and I was like, social media, teachers having Facebook pages, what they post. I mean, it's kind of getting to a new age about social media, about, what's right, what's not right. I mean, right. I know as a principal, we deal with a lot of issues over social media on these phones, and they bring these problems to school.
Yeah.
At our high school, we had a young lady commit suicide, and it was because of bullying issues.
Wow.
It almost made the national news, you know. I was just, and one last question for you, Jamal. How did y'all do last year? I know we just got our teacher working conditions survey scores back. We dropped to a C school last year, and we're back to a B this year. Where are you guys? Were y'all proficient? What kind of grade did y'all get last year?
Last year, overall we got a letter D.
Okay.
Now, they haven't really, I guess, released this information to us officially. But I would.
You moved up, or do y'all think you?
I would expect, just hearing about our test scores and the number of students who, retested, who did not really grow at all, I would expect that we'll be around the same, if not lower.
I've been looking at 4C today myself, and I was looking at our special ed population with IEPs. We have 118 kids with IEPs at our school. I mean, and so when I told y'all the other day we had 73 pass the retest, I mean, that really bumped us from a C school back to a B school. And our principal he's called a lot of heck dropping from a B to a C. I mean, he's caught a lot of issues, and we've tried to change, and school improvement team and everybody. So I was just wondering what kind of letter grade did you guys had?
Yeah, and I really believe it's about the same, because these scores this year were not good at all.
And that's all the questions I have for Jamal, but I thought you did a good job. I sent you your peer review and added to some things. Hopefully it'll help you take some of these suggestions, but you really did a good job, and your budget and everything with that, you did a good job. And then on B, I noticed you guys were working on PLCs. I kind of thought this was for everybody. Do you guys really have PLCs at your school? My wife is an instructional coach, and some of these groups that we meet, we say we're meeting with PLCs. But I don't know if we definitely needed to work on our PLCs at our school for sure.
Now, ever since I've been at the school, we've always had PLCs on Tuesdays, and it ranges from a number of topics. Now, this year, they really tried to focus on student data and student achievement. So our instructional coaches have really been tasked with, just aggregating the data, actual looking at student work, trying to really figure out, if the students are learning and how do we know they're learning, and how, I guess, to make the lesson plans more rigorous, and also the instruction, or facilitating the instruction. So we have some good ones, and some not so good.
And time too. I know you were talking about time, because it's hard, because you want certain groups to meet, certain grade levels to meet, and it's hard in the middle school. I know Vernon's at a high school, Whitney's at a high school. It's hard to meet with all these teachers at different times, and the PLC sometimes struggle a little bit. So But that was my questions I had for Jamal.
Thank you, Bruce.
Who's up?
I guess I can go next. Whitney, you did a very good job of detailing the structures and operation of your school. I found some common areas that we, I guess, both share, especially with the textbook procedures and having classroom sets and things. And it's only because of budget restrictions, I'm sure. And thinking back, and when I read over that part, I started to think back to some of the textbooks I used and some of the textbooks I saw some of the other teachers using. Many of them were 8 to 10 years old, and with no intention of having any updated versions, not even an online version. being that we're becoming more digital in schools. So that was one thing I saw that we had in common.
And what's interesting is,
yeah, go on.
I know I'm in a little bit of a weird situation because I teach at the high school that I attended as a student. It's real fun whenever my kids get my textbook and they bring it in and they're like, oh, Miss Slater, look, here's your name. But that also tells me that we're not using the newest, most recent, especially like in terms of history.
Right.
We're not using books that have the most recent history in it.
Right.
Or that, like you said, that have technology components. It is an easy way to tie it in. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I also noticed that the school day, it begins at 9 o'clock for students.
Yes.
Now,
9 o'clock.
I enjoy it.
I wish.
Part of the reason that no other high school in Guilford County starts that late. We're the ones that start the latest because of our CTE programming, the part-time programs. They have to get to their districted school first. Then they have to have time between like their high school start time and ours to get there by bus if they have to use bus transportation. They can also, but we still have kids that don't get to school until 9:30 or 9:40, and they've missed almost half a block of instruction.
What?
So that's a real challenge in itself.
So, and this go out for anyone else as well. So I think there was some talk about, I guess, or has been some talk about starting school at a later date or later time. Mm-hmm. Do you think that really, I guess, would affect the academic performance of the students?
I think it would our PVA students who are there full time, because they tend to be more high achieving in their academic, not just in their art, but in their academics.
Right.
Because we teach only honors and AP classes. Whereas with our CTE students, some of them have no business being in an honors or AP class. And they'll tell you that. They will say, I am struggling in this honors class, but that's all we teach.
Right.
Because that's what our full-time program requires. And so we actually have some kids who will get paired up with, say, a culinary arts class and an honors English class, and they'll end up dropping Weaver altogether because they can't handle the academic class. So then that impacts our numbers, which then impacts our teacher allotment.
Wow.
It turns into a domino effect.
Wow.
Which is interesting.
With the parking permit fees. Now, Bruce, I don't know whether you guys have this issue at your school with the locker fees, maybe. I don't know. Where do these fees go to?
That's a great question. I don't know where they go to. And we always say if you don't have a parking permit, you're going to get towed. In the 11 years that I have been a part of Weaver's community, and somehow not a single solitary person, adult, student, visitor, otherwise, has ever been towed off of our campus. But if they park in the parking lot that's across the street from Weaver, which is a Guilford County Schools owned parking lot because one of their administrative offices is across from our building downtown, if you park over there, you can bet that within 30 seconds there's going to be a tow truck in the parking lot to tow your car.
Goodness.
So I don't know where the fees go. I don't know why we have them because I don't ever see them used.
Right.
So, and you better have exact change because they do not.
Oh my goodness. And I think one other thing with the teachers, I guess, being a little disconnected with each other, those who are with the performing arts and those with the general ed classes. Have you guys ever thought about creating thematic units of study? Whereas, you can have lessons across the curriculum to kind of bridge that gap?
2 years ago, we tried to, STEAM was becoming kind of a buzzword, moving from STEM to STEAM to include the arts. And we had a STEAM steering committee that lasted all of about 6 months, maybe. Because when they made their presentation at one of our faculty meetings, the faculty, like the PVA faculty and the CTE faculty, got even more divided and were like, nope, we do not want the arts kids in our classes, and arts teachers didn't want CTE kids in their classes. And the students very much pick up on that division with the adults. Yeah. Therefore, they have that division with each other. Yeah. And they're like, oh, the rednecks come for CTE programming in this snobby little northern Guilford County, which northern Guilford County tends to be your upper class folks. They're like, oh, well, the arts kids are all the upper class snobby kids. And that's how the kids see themselves. And that's how they see each other. And it's awful. And then, like, I think I said this in the paper, not all the PVA faculty feels that way. Like, I certainly don't feel that way. Not all the CTE faculty feel that way. But it's hard when you're in the minority and you're trying to affect change and you're young. Nobody's interested. So it's just, we're still trying to figure that out. We are still trying to figure out how we can get people to connect, students and teachers.
Wow. And one last thing. While looking at your critique of the school structure, I understood exactly what you were saying. However, it appeared to be very personal, like a reflection piece almost.
Yeah. Or maybe like a rant.
Yeah, and that's what I put. I said, it's like you're venting here, but I understood exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you can go and just possibly rephrase some things.
Okay, yeah.
Not, be so personal.
No, I totally mean, I know what you're saying.
Because it was like, it's like he got that part, this is what I hate, and this is what's happening, and
right.
This is totally understandable, though. But other than that was
Don't
great.
read my paper, then.
That was a great job.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and do Vernon since
On the order here.
Speaking of venting.
I was just about to say that. I'm telling you, every time I read your papers, I'm like, are we the same person? Because I think we do have a lot of this really similar frustrations. Or at least that's how I feel when I read it. So I just have some questions for you, Vernon, and just about some different things that I read or that I thought were interesting or maybe wanted you to elaborate more on.
Okay.
In 4A, when you were talking about the safety plan, first of all, your safety plan is quite detailed. I was super impressed compared to ours. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do and has a job to do, and it's very clearly laid out. I am curious.
Yeah, I know what bus I'm driving in the evacuation plan.
I mean,
That's
we don't
sad.
even know if we have buses on ours. But I noticed in there it said that you keep classroom doors locked at all times. And this is a question you can answer this too. You keep them locked at all times during the instructional day no matter what?
Yes.
Okay. So what happens if you need something or you have an emergency in your room but nobody can get to you and you can't unlock the door?
All right. I was gonna not vent, but then see you started it. It was all your fault.
Are y'all in one building or are you in separate buildings? I mean, are you with
We are actually in two separate buildings. The majority of the school, 95% of the school is in one building, and then our agro science building is a separate building. But most of the school is one building.
Are the outside entrances and exits, are they locked as well or just the classroom doors?
Every entrance is supposed to be locked except for the doors that go between those two buildings, and it's fenced off from the outside. So you have to be inside one of those buildings to get to those entrances. But to be honest with you, we're a school with 1,000 kids.
Right.
It's not a secure location. We're a soft target if anybody is looking. If ISIS wants to come get us, we have an older school that has an old entrance and a new entrance. So we're a school that has two different entrances. So people can come to our school and try to come to one entrance, and they really should be going to the other one. And only one of the entrances do we have, and we just recently got this, a Sally Port type deal where you come in, show your identification, and then you're unlocked to the rest of the school. But because our school has two different entrances, major entrances, that's only in place at one of the entrances. And to be honest with you, it's the one that's less commonly used.
Okay. How do your
And
teachers?
as far as our classroom, as far as
Go
our
ahead.
classroom doors go, and to answer your previous question, our classroom doors are locked, and then this is a perfect storm of miscommunication, because not only are our classroom doors locked, but the way our school is with its keys makes this a huge problem. And I have said this to a lot of people. I've heard other teachers say this a bunch of times. We've had instances in our school where it's been a problem. I have a key that can get into my classroom and one of the exterior doors. I can't get into all the exterior doors or anyone else's classroom. So we had a situation, it's been probably 4 or 5 years ago, where a teacher was in the hallway, but her keys were in the room. And students went in and had a fight in her room. This is before the 8 o'clock bell. And they closed the door.
Wow.
And so a kid got beat up pretty bad and part of the reason was because it took that long to get somebody who could get that door open. The teacher stood outside the door and watched the kid get beat up inside her classroom.
Oh my God.
So that's been a huge problem. We haven't really addressed it. The biggest thing I think that we've tried to do moving forward is to take even more keys away from people for some reason. I don't know why. The lady who sweeps the floor can get into my classroom anytime she wants to, but no one else can. I mean, I don't know if it's because we're not viewed as, to be honest with you, the way that a lot of teachers take that is that we're not viewed as professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to be honest, it's kind of a salt in the wound. When you talk to a lot of teachers, it's a little bit like, how do we not have keys to doors?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's our.
I mean,
Okay.
go ahead.
That's interesting because teachers at my school, we don't get master keys either. We get, I have an inside master. Has it always been that way?
Well, I've been there for 11 years, and it's been that way. When you talk to some teachers that have been there, like some retirees and stuff like that, they talk about how it used to be a 6-period day or an 8-period day. But for the last 11 years, we've been on a 4x4.
Okay. We did a hybrid block schedule this past year where we had 3 block classes and 2 year-long traditional classes. It was a mess. And I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, but we were trying to increase CTE enrollment and it did not work. So I think it's great that the whole county just has one schedule to follow. I imagine that's helpful with other things.
I've got to clarify, and this is a weird thing too. Catawba County is, I think, one of 2. Last I checked, that we were one of 2 counties still in the state of North Carolina that has multiple school systems within the same county. So we've got 3 school systems in Catawba County.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So if you go to Hickory City Schools, they're on a different. I think they're on 8 periods. Or if you go to Newton Conover City Schools, I can't speak for them, but for the 4 Catawba County high schools, we are on the block. But I know Hickory's different than ours.
And what gets interesting is when a kid transfers and they're trying to play sports, or if they're ineligible with that block schedule versus the regular class schedule. You talking about crazy? It's crazy.
Well, that's how
it's been kind of a nightmare for us. Just even when a kid comes over and they want to take a class that they were taking, like you're nowhere near where you were, or you're way ahead of where you were in the previous class.
That's how we were. We found that we had kids who were transferring or tried to transfer, And because we had traditional and block at the same time, kids were like, what? Like, what are we doing here? So it was a mess. Let's see. In your attendance, when you talked about your attendance policies, I noticed it said that students are allowed a reasonable amount of time to make up missed work. What defines a reasonable amount of time?
Well,
is it up to each
basically,
teacher?
it's the teacher. How that works at our school is the teacher decides what a reasonable amount of time is. I mean, it really goes across the board. There are some teachers at my school who basically give students no chance to make up stuff. There's no time that's reasonable. And then we've got some teachers at our school where it's unlimited time that's reasonable. Like if they get it turned in before, honestly, I think a kid, to some of our teachers, could turn in an assignment with their cap and gown on the day of graduation and probably get credit for it so that they could walk across the stage. So it really runs the gamut.
Policy or anything like that.
Yeah, it's really vague and it's open to the teacher, and I'm kind of in the middle somewhere where I feel like, well, if the kid's got a pretty good story, I'll cut them a break.
Okay. I just have one last thing before I know we're kind of running short on time. I just noticed one thing. I didn't really see a lot of discussion about your school budget. So that's one thing.
I was so hoping you would ask me that.
That's one thing that
Thank God you asked me that.
If you know about your budget or that you can have a discussion about it, I would suggest adding a little bit.
I was impressed with Jamal's budget. He had a budget. I liked it. It looked good.
All right. Thank you so much for asking me that question, because here's my answer. After several attempts to get a school budget, they have been fruitless. I do not have a budget, and on my final version of this paper, I'm going to submit the email, or actually the 3 emails that I've asked for the budget, and then I'm going to write, I guess, maybe a page about how I did not get the budget. Because I don't have it.
Unbelievable.
And I don't know why I don't have it, but I got a pretty good idea. It's because we're building what I've heard is a $1.8 million football field house, and that thing is on this budget.
Oh my God. Wow.
So I got a pretty good idea why I'm not getting the budget. And what's weird is I've even asked for like an old budget. You know, I've even tried to cheat a little bit and say, listen, if you don't want to give me this year's budget, just give me one from years past, or make up a budget if you have to. I need to see what a school budget looks like. So,
all right, guys, we're down to about 4 minutes. Vernon,
okay, I guess I need to go real quick.
Hit me on a couple of questions.
All right. Well, Bruce, I had a list of questions, but I think since we got a lack of time, I'm going to ask you this way, because I think it might be the former coach in me, and I know you're a coach as well. When you're looking at these game plans of how your school does things, the question that I have that I think is most important is, as an administrator, what is your number one plan that you feel like is the most inefficient at your school that you would change?
And I'll tell y'all, for me, last year, I've been at this school. I actually went to this school too, Whitney. I've been at this school for on and off for 25 years. Okay. I was a middle school teacher there for 10 years. I left and went to the high school for 8 years. And now I've come back to the middle school. That's a great question. Last year it came down between me and another guy to be the assistant principal at our school. I had not started classes at Gardner-Webb. There were 28 people who interviewed for this job, and it came down to us two. And the county kind of felt like they wanted me to get some experience. They wanted me to start these classes. They were worried that I wasn't serious. But we hired 2 assistant principals this year, and our morale, our discipline, our teacher morale, our teacher working condition survey dropped 21 points. The biggest problem at our school is our principals do not interact with the teachers. Our athletics has gone downhill. That's one way we save a lot of kids. We're 70% free and reduced lunch. When a kid plays sports or involved in a program, that's just something that I've always been a part of, and it's been horrific at our school this year. We actually just lost an assistant principal because of those teacher working conditions survey, and she is going to another middle school, and we are looking to hire someone on staff from our school. And I don't know that that's going to be me this year, because it's a testing situation and special ed assistant principal. But our school morale has just gone down the tubes. And, not somebody that the teachers feel comfortable about talking to, discipline. Our kids pretty much do whatever they want to do, and teachers take them to the office. Nothing is done. They send them back. I feel like we pass kids, Vernon, like you were talking about. We pass kids just to pass kids.
Yeah.
We've got a kid with 50 tardies right now, and he's going to end up playing sports next year. And I'm like, how can you miss school 50 times, for tardies and have 40 absent?
Right.
How can you be eligible? And middle schools don't go by what the NCHSA goes by. We kind of do our own thing, and it's kind of weird. But yeah, I feel like I could definitely change our teacher morale for sure.
Right.
That's
a great answer. I enjoyed. You had a lot of details in your paper too, and just for press for time, I wanted to get it at the kind of like the stake there and see what the big question would be. But yeah, good luck with that, Bruce. I know you would. I know you love you. I can tell from reading your paper that you care a lot about your school.
Yeah, I really do, and it's different from when you go to school there. I live in the community. My kids go to school there, so it's always been important to me about how we do things. We don't even have a PTO. Athletics is the budget is terrible. When we're looking at our budget, I was just like, are we really kidding ourselves on how they treat the high school versus the middle school? So it bothers me because my kids are in school.
Right.
And I'm sorry about that feedback right there, that negative. My speakers are terrible.
Well, I would like to say how good or bad my budget is, but.
Hey, we're going to end up cutting off here, guys. Listen, great job tonight, okay?
All right. Good job, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
See you guys. Have a good week.
We have to pay if we go over. I'm not paying anymore.